Yep.
Welcome to Civic Concerns. And I'm going to hop in next to Tom Price. This is the third in our series of Civic Concerns little videos that we're putting out there with our concerns about civic matters. Our Town, Our City Institute. Tom, this is an organization you inaugurated, now going back more than a couple of years.
Oh, back to 2017.
And basically, what would you describe the purpose of OTOC?
Well, from 2015 forward, we saw a lot of information that was not true and not accurate coming out of City Hall. That they had consultant reports done that were invalid. Any engineering company that you would approach to do the reports that they had coming would throw them in the garbage. And the classic case in point is all the fire department studies. And they were terrible. Like, you couldn't trust any of them, and you still can't. Now, they're proceeding with changes to fire services that are based on invalid information, that are based on no assessment of the need, that's based on no comprehension of the fire risks, all which are required by the Fire Act. And so we got involved with that, and then we found out that when they wanted to go ahead with the large projects, they were doing the same thing. They were buying reports that said the opposite of what they were doing.
So how can this really develop? Is it because consultants want to satisfy whatever those people who subscribe to the consultants want them to report?
Oh no, the consultants, surprisingly enough, the consultants' reports, they do tell you what the problems are if you read their report. The problem is that the people at the city interpreting those reports don't report what the consultants are telling them.
Well, some of looking at the fire, just one aspect of that fire report, which was done by a consulting firm in England, and they recommended that the Mineral Lake Station be moved from its present location some 2 kilometers away, which, according to an analysis of response times, would indicate that this is not the best place to put it, if even the space is available to put. And even the same thing with the downtown station, moving it from where it is to another location, which is less desirable. Now, these, to ordinary observers like ourselves, this did not seem to, I think the term is, make any sense.
They don't. They don't make any sense.
So why would you accept something that doesn't make any sense?
Well, we've questioned that. We've challenged. We've asked for interviews with the people on the project teams to sort out why they're using this bad information. And we get no response. We get no reaction. So then you say, well, okay. We approach the fire services. Now, fire services is supposed to report to council, not to the CAO. Okay, the fire chief has a direct reporting accountability to council. Okay, but we don't have a fire chief, so that eliminates that problem, I guess. But
we have a director of safety services, emergency services. I guess is that the exact term?
Well, and he heads up what's called the community safety department.
Okay,
which is unbelievably an oxymoron. Like, it is not a community safety department. I don't know what there is about it that does anything related to safety. You look around the city and the stuff that's going on, I don't see anybody from that safety department there. I've seen in Lively people working in an open hole with no shoring. Part of the wall of the cavity collapsed. They're lucky they didn't get trapped. There's nobody coming around saying, hey, where's the shoring for that hole? And the contractor even challenged me and told me, well, that's tough. This is how we do it.
But isn't the city responsible? And I think we've had instances where there's been legal action taken because the city has not been on top of various projects and looking after some of the procedures that should be safety conscious.
Well, and interestingly, those interventions have come from the provincial government, who makes the laws on these issues. So basically what it says is our city doesn't care about our provincial laws, federal laws, and even their own laws, bylaws. They make the bylaw, and one of the grossest examples on ignoring bylaws is the climate change emergency.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh, but it seems like we're going in the opposite direction. There's a lot of verbiage about, okay, by 2030 we're going to be safe with respect to the environment, and on the other hand we're going to go ahead and build buildings that are going to contribute more CO2 to the atmosphere that's going to take many decades to resolve.
More in a short period of 3 years of construction for the event center will emit more greenhouse gases in those 3 short years than Sudbury has emitted in probably the last 50 years. However, it almost as if their objective is to emit as much as we can before 2050.
Almost. But there's so many different issues, but just going back just a little bit about the safety issues, there's talk about replacing 2 arenas in the outlying areas. But really, when it comes to safety, arenas are a valuable component if there's disasters of any sort where you need to house people because of storms or fires or whatever. So really, this is part of the safety equation, is it not?
It should be. In fact, anyone who read up or watched what happened down by Mattawa this past, 2 months ago, where they had a major storm go through the provincial park, the arena in Mattawa became the refuge center. And that's what all of these arenas should have the capacity to do. For example, let's take Levac just as an example. There's one road into Levac. You either come in from Timmins or you come in from Sudbury. But if that road gets washed out the way we've seen in some of the floods on TV,
that's right.
How do the rescue people get there? And they can't. So they need a refuge station within that community where the people can gather, where the volunteer rescue people, safety people in that community can help them. We're abandoning them. Beaver Lake, we shut down the emergency. The emergency rescue station was part of the fire station.
Right.
They closed the fire station. Yeah, right. It's gone. Yep. Where's the safety in that? That's right on the Trans-Canada Highway. We have, I don't know how many fatalities on that highway every year. We should have jaws of life. We should have hazardous materials in that station. We should have all that stuff if we're safety minded.
And about rescue.
Rescue?
Well, we only have one boat rescue. And I think that's in Minnow Lake, which is a fair distance away from Whitefish.
Yeah, but last week we had a rescue attempt on Vermilion River in Whitefish. A young person passed away, drowned in the Vermilion River. And it took over a half an hour to get the rescue boat there. And it was a Kodiak rescue boat. And at that time, the deceased was already on the beach. The public had already tried to rescue him. They got him on the beach, tried to resuscitate him. A half an hour later, the rescue boat arrives. Now, it had to come from town.
I understand that down south in the Halton region, there's a number of fire stations and a number of water bodies as well, 2 streams and a couple of lakes and that sort. But they seem to be better equipped.
Every volunteer station in Halton region has water rescue. They have hazmat training. They have all the things that the fire station should have. And they have the equipment. They've got 14 stations in Haldeman County, Haldeman region. And what do we have? We don't even have one complete fire hall in Sudbury.
So can't we learn from other communities? It seems like in many instances, some of our problems might be able to be resolved if we could only look at other communities and see what they've done. But this doesn't seem to be the case. We seem to be so isolated. You almost wonder, does anybody in positions of authority ever go to learn what's happening? And you don't need to actually go physically. You can just go to your phone and go to Google, and you'll find out we all have this information now.
Well, the proof is in the doing. And since we haven't been doing, obviously the answer is no, we are unable to learn from those.
Now, just going back just for a moment here for these arenas, most of them have community function. They have halls.
Yes, they do.
And I'm just thinking of one, I guess the one in Hanmer, that's called the Centennial, I believe.
Yeah.
And I know I've, in one of my previous...
Centennial or Confederation?
Or Confederation or Centennial. Anyway, the one there in Hanmer up on the hill.
Yeah.
A great facility.
Yeah.
In one of my previous incarnations as a disc jockey, I've run dances out there. Great facility.
Yeah.
You have a fantastic one in Lively.
Yeah.
I mean, these are community assets that for some reason, if you apply some formulas, which we don't quite understand how they arrive at the city, they say, oh, we got too many arenas. I think we should shut down a couple. Or maybe we should build a twin pad here. Or it all seems to be sort of pie in the sky stuff without looking at reality.
Well, the problem is they look at artificial statistics and don't look at the reality of the people that live there. And you can't do that in small communities. Statistics would tell you that Sudbury shouldn't be a city.
No.
All right? But we are. They designated us as one, and they combined the former city of Sudbury and the former city of Valley East to make the greater city of Sudbury. Well, that's just based on what? Somebody wanted to get rid of some councillors and mayors. That's all it was based on.
And of course, the other aspect is that many of these communities could operate themselves financially, and with, of course, assistance from the provincial government, because you can always apply for funding for certain aspects.
Yep.
But when they put us all together, really that eliminated the possibility for Valley East or for Lively or for Garson, which was Nickel Center, of course, to really apply on themselves. So they couldn't operate autonomously.
Right.
They were all put into the amalgamated city of Greater Sudbury, which really isn't that much greater.
Well, and there's several prize cases in point of communities around the former city of Sudbury, where they did an amazing job of running their communities. Capreol is a good example. Lively, Levac, Coniston, Garson, Valley East. They all ran their communities very efficiently and very effectively because they managed them. We now administer them. Somebody's got a book somewhere at City Hall, and it says, okay, you will do this about the sidewalks. And the ridiculous thing, intersections have to have a concrete curb at the intersection.
Right.
Out in Whitefish, we have MR4, which goes up to Worthington, and Creighton Mine Road goes off to the right. We have concrete curbs on that intersection. The mine haul trucks, the back end of the trailer goes over those curbs most of the time. Right. And what are they trying to accomplish with those curbs? But that's what you need in the city, so we shall have it out there. They have no discretionary thinking.
No. Okay. Is this because it is too centrally concentrated?
No,
I mean, it seems like
not at all.
no.
Not at all. It's because they do not know how to manage the city. And for example,
With it, that term "manage" seems to come up occasionally. We talk about the differences. There's when you look at some structures of organizations, you end up with CAOs, and CFOs, and administrators, and occasionally a manager.
mm-hmm.
It seems like in the past you had the manager on top.
Yep.
Without all the bureaucracy that was and the silos that were created. So, is this a situation sort of a product of our own design or lack of design?
Well, it's the product of politics running the institution. Okay. For example, I don't think there's too many cities or municipalities very much more complicated than running a Ford Motor Company or a General Motors, Chrysler Corporation. You would never see them with all of their resources gathered in one spot. They have their head office, but the General Motors operation in Sudbury is not managed from Oshawa or wherever their head office is nowadays. It's managed locally. They have to prove their performance to head office, but they are not managed from there. Why do we try to do that here? Why do we try to have everything dictated from the center of the city, which isn't, by the way, the center of the city? But why wouldn't you have the people, for example, let's take Cape Rel. Cape Rel had very good councillors. They weren't running debt. They were running positive. They had water system. They had fire protection. They had everything you need in that small community, and a double pad ice rink.
Yeah.
Okay. On their own. They never had City Hall managing it or administering it. Okay. Those types of managers are out there, but we don't pay them any credibility. If they're not a politician, if they're not related to somebody in the city, they can't have any responsibility. And it's harmful. It's affecting every aspect of our communities. Like Cape Rel, it's disgusting what has been happening in Cape Rel. Times have changed. In Cape Rel, they used to have the trains run through the downtown. They still do, but the trains now, instead of being a half a mile long, are 3 miles long.
That's right.
Okay? And it cuts across the only street giving you emergency access to the downtown.
That's right.
Okay? So if you happen to get there with a fire engine or an ambulance, you have to wait for the train to go across, and since it's going through a community, they're limited to 15 kilometers per hour. 15 miles per hour, sorry. So you have to wait till that 3-mile train goes through. So a few years ago, they decided to do something about that. They didn't put an overpass or underpass. They set up a way so that you would call a number. If you're sitting there in the ambulance or fire engine, you call a number in Toronto. The Toronto office calls the central dispatch in Cape Rel. The Cape Rel dispatch gets on the radio and calls one of his guys to go down and get the emergency equipment and go around the end of the train to reach the other side.
Well, and by that time we have phoned the funeral home to go and pick up the bodies from...
Send the coroner instead.
Right. So, yeah, we have a lot of issues, of course, in Sudbury, and many communities have issues, of course, and it's so the way you look at them and the issues. And we've had some concern about, especially in Sudbury, with respect to our upper levels of administration. Now we have a couple of new people who've just been hired. I get my letters mixed up here a little bit.
CAO.
CAO, that's the Chief Administrative Officer, and then a CFO,
Right.
a Chief Financial Officer. Well, these people come from other areas. I just wonder what they think about what they're getting into.
You'll never find out.
I actually wonder why someone would apply for a job in Sudbury if they really understood what's going on. And of course, what is going on, we know that when we meet citizens like ourselves out in the community, they say to us, "What's going on?"
Yep.
You know, we're not happy about what's happening. But unfortunately, there seems to be a level of apathy, or maybe I guess resignation.
More resignation than apathy. They care, but they've given up. They don't know how they can change it. And certainly our council and the city senior staff aren't prepared to change.
Well, they have put themselves in a particular position due to decisions that have been made, bylaws that have been passed, and so on and so forth, and directions have been given that seem to indicate that, as you say, there is a reluctance to even consider alternatives.
Yep.
Is it because we've gone too far? Is it possible, you've had years and years and years of experience in private industry, where very much concerned about the end, of course, how decisions result in outcomes, and in many cases the outcomes are not exactly what may have been determined from the very beginning. So in private, what do you do when you discover that your organization is proceeding in such a direction that it's not going to end up to be good for the company, and in the end for the shareholders and for profit? What happens then?
Well, in my experience, I would notify the managers and whoever was in charge of the situation, and I would make a recommendation on how to correct it. Now, invariably, they would come back and say, "Oh, we can't do that. You're going to have to change your recommendation."
Right. And you're going to have to go along with what they originally intended. Yeah.
And my response was, "No, that's my recommendation. If you want me to do something different, you send me a memo telling me what to do. That's your job." I've never once, in 35 years of working for that company, got a recommendation from a senior official telling me what to do. Not once. We always ended up doing what was recommended. Okay? Now, that would not happen at City Hall. Because, we have, as part of what we do in reviewing the city's performance, we look into all kinds of things. And in 2022, when KED was about to take off towards completion, the Journal of Economic Surveys looked at 130 different projects similar to that had been constructed over 30 years. They looked at whether the project met the initial costs, and they didn't. They looked at whether the projects provided economic and betterment of the community. They didn't. They looked at almost everything that we're told today will be better when we build these things. They didn't find any that actually filled that promise out of 130 projects. In fact, they even found projects where when they moved the sports venue out of a city, the city's economic health improved. Okay? Now, I've made that available to I don't know how many people here in the city. It's as if they can't read.
So here's what you're saying, there's 100, what you're talking about, first of all, in the private sector, if you find out you're going in the right direction, you might alter that direction in order to cut costs and to realize that
in the wrong direction,
whatever the project is, just is not going to work. And then you got this other area here where you had 130 examples of something that which you may be considered doing yourself, which hasn't worked out really that well, and yet you still want to proceed.
Yep.
which would be described by many people as being stupid.
Well, that is the proper definition, by the way. Now, people don't like that because stupid has unsavory connotations, but if you take a look at, there's an Italian economist described and established the 5 laws of stupidity. Carlo
That's a great report. I know you gave me that report.
Yes.
It's fascinating, and this doesn't mean that people of low intelligence are the only people that make stupid decisions.
No.
All of us, even if those of us who are brilliant, which is maybe not
highly intelligent,
which we don't pretend to be, but
No.
we're just observers of the situation. But it's easy for groups and individuals of highly intelligent people to still
to be stupid.
or unwise, as the case may be. But we're almost running out of time. We're going to come back with another segment, and we're going to ask Mr. Price why he is involved with this. He can ask me the same thing, I guess, too, because we are not spring chickens. We've been around for quite some time. Why are we concerned? Because we're not going to be around for forever. We're going to answer that question, or I think we're going to try to answer that question. And we're going to look at other issues, of course, which have are paramount in the community. Coming up this week, we have the sale of the Bell Rock Mansion by Laurentian University, which acquired the facility for $1 and now wants to sell it for $1 million.
To a private purchaser.
For a private person. I mean, sometimes you wonder. But anyway, so stay with us. I'm John Lindsay. This is Tom Price. And Civic Concerns is the name of the series which we're sending out there to those of you who care to listen and to view. And of course, we welcome you to let us know what you think as well, too. Or even better, let your counselor know how you feel. Let the media know how you feel. This is your city, greater or not, and in a sense, it's your responsibility. So stay tuned. Thanks for viewing.
Thank you very much.
Mm.